AI moves fast. Here's what matters. This is AI Daily for January 11th, 2026. On January 9th, 2026, users paying Anthropic $200 a month for unlimited Claude Code were suddenly cut off, discovering they'd been costing the company over $1,000 in compute time each. What does this reveal about the true cost of unlimited AI? Today, trunk /81BC8126/8E08427AKKK0CD67BF0 XPU feature B7690. ERDOS problem number 728 was solved more or less autonomously. Plus, our deep dive into Anthropic Block's third-party Claude Code CLI tools. Let's go.
Here's your AI Daily News Roundup for January 10th, 2026. All right, let's kick things off with some exciting updates coming out of the PyTorch camp. First up, they've released a new API, torch.xpu._dump_snapshot. Now, for those working on XPU-based hardware, this is a potential game changer. This new API basically allows you to dump memory snapshots, which is invaluable for debugging memory-related issues. Why does this matter? Well, memory leaks and fragmentation are notoriously difficult to track down, especially in complex AI models. This should give you a more granular view into what's happening under the hood, hopefully saving you hours of debugging time. Moving on, let's talk about llama.cpp, everyone's favorite tool for running llama models locally. There have been several bug fixes and improvements pushed out, and while they may seem minor individually, they add up to a much more stable and efficient experience. One particular fix that caught my eye addresses an issue where NCMPL wasn't properly skipping prompt processing in server mode. If you're running llama.cpp as the backend for your applications, this could mean significantly reduced latency and improved resource utilization, especially under heavy load. The fixes related to child samplers will also be welcome news for those experimenting with custom sampling strategies. In other news, a fascinating article is making waves on Hacker News. It claims that ERDOS problem number 728 was solved more or less autonomously by AI. Now, ERDOS was a legendary mathematician known for posing hundreds of unsolved problems. The fact that an AI system could potentially crack one of these, even with more or less caveats, is a huge leap. This isn't just about math, it's about demonstrating the potential of AI to tackle complex reasoning and problem-solving in fields previously thought to be exclusively human domains. For AI practitioners, it highlights the growing need to understand the underlying reasoning processes of these AI systems, to validate their solutions, and maybe even learn new approaches from them. Switching gears a bit, there's an interesting article circulating about the effectiveness of exercise as a treatment for depression. The article suggests that exercise can be nearly as effective as therapy in some cases. While this isn't directly AI-related, it underscores a critical point for those of us in the field. We often focus so much on building these incredibly powerful tools, but it's vital to remember the human element. AI development can be mentally taxing, and taking care of your physical and mental well-being is crucial for sustained productivity and creativity. Sometimes the best solution isn't a new algorithm, but a walk in the park. Also making waves today is a somewhat alarming report about Flock's safety. Apparently, they hard-coded the password for America's surveillance infrastructure, not once, but 53 times. This is a colossal security blunder. It highlights the importance of secure coding practices, robust authentication mechanisms, and frankly, just good security hygiene. As AI becomes increasingly integrated into critical infrastructure, the security stakes become exponentially higher. This is a cautionary tale for all developers, emphasizing the need for rigorous security audits and a culture of security awareness. The implications of this breach extend far beyond software engineers. Let's move on to something a bit more positive. Amazon has released a blog post about their Nova multimodal embeddings. This is all about cross-modal search. Think searching for an image using text or finding a product based on a combination of visual and textual cues. Amazon is using this internally for their e-commerce platform. What's key here for us is understanding the architecture and implementation of such a system. The blog post dives into the technical challenges of traditional approaches and highlights how their embeddings overcome these limitations. If you're working on anything related to multimodal AI, computer vision, or natural language processing, this is definitely worth checking out. Finally, back to PyTorch, they've also pushed out a change to support mixing big int and number types for memory viz. This one is pretty specific, but if you're working with GPUs, especially XPU, you might have run into issues where device pointers are represented as big int values in JavaScript. This update ensures that MemoryViz, PyTorch's memory visualization tool, can properly handle these values, making it easier to analyze memory usage and identify potential bottlenecks on these platforms. That's the news for today. Now let's dive into our deep dive topic, the ethical implications of AI-driven decision-making in law enforcement. Today, we're diving into something that hit the developer community hard this week, January 9th, 2026, around 2:20 a.m. UTC. Thousands of developers woke up to find their AI coding workflows completely broken. No warning, no transition period, just blocked.
And we're not talking about some small indie tool here. This affected OpenCode users, people using other third-party CLI wrappers, basically anyone who'd integrated Claude into their workflows through unofficial channels. The Hacker News thread hit 566 points with over 480 comments within hours. GitHub issue 7410 on the OpenCode repo exploded with 147 reactions. This wasn't a minor inconvenience. For many developers, this was a crisis.
DHH, David Heinemeier Hansen, the creator of Ruby on Rails, weighed in and called it, quote, customer hostile, end quote, which is a pretty strong statement from someone with that kind of platform. But here's what makes this story interesting. Was Anthropic actually in the wrong? Because the more you dig into what happened, the more complicated this gets.
Right. This isn't just about one company being mean to developers. This is about the fundamental economics of AI platforms that every single person building on these tools needs to understand. So let's break down what actually happened, starting with the technical mechanism.
The technical mechanism is fascinating and honestly kind of clever from a hacking perspective. Third-party tools like OpenCode were doing something sneaky. They were spoofing Claude Code client identity headers, essentially convincing Anthropic servers that requests were coming from the official CLI when they weren't.
And to understand why that matters, you need to understand how Claude Code is architected. When you use the official Claude Code CLI, it doesn't just fire raw API requests to Claude. It goes through Anthropic's infrastructure with specific client headers, authentication flows, and crucially, rate limiting baked in. The official tool throttles your usage in ways that aren't immediately obvious to users.
But these third-party wrappers, they reverse-engineered the authentication flow, replicated the client headers, and bypassed all of that throttling. You could run high-intensity autonomous agent loops overnight. Just let it code, test, fix, repeat for hours without hitting the soft limits the official tool enforces.
Which sounds amazing from a productivity standpoint. I mean, who wouldn't want their AI assistant working while they sleep? But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Claude Max costs $200 a month for quote-unquote unlimited usage through the official CLI.
The API pricing for that same heavy usage? Over $1,000 per month, sometimes way more depending on your token consumption. There's this quote from a Hacker News user, DF Fabulich, that really crystallized it. In a month of Claude Code, it's easy to use so many LLM tokens that it would have cost you more than $1,000 if you'd paid via the API.
Let me put that in perspective. If you're paying $200 and consuming $1,000 worth of compute, Anthropic is eating $800 every month on your account. Now multiply that by however many power users discovered this arbitrage through third-party tools.
And that's the uncomfortable truth about unlimited subscriptions in AI. They only work economically because of built-in friction. The rate limits, the throttling, the slightly clunky interface that makes you pause between requests. Those aren't bugs, they're features. Features that make the business model sustainable.
Features that make the entire subscription offering viable. Without those guardrails, unlimited quickly becomes unlimited losses for Anthropic. Now, Anthropic hasn't explicitly said, "We blocked you because you were costing us too much money." Their official statement from Tariq Shihipar cited technical instability as the primary driver.
Right. The argument is that third-party wrappers introduce bugs and usage patterns Anthropic can't diagnose. When OpenCode hits errors, users blame Claude itself. Tweets go out saying, "Claude is broken again." The platform's reputation gets damaged by tools they don't control.
Which is a legitimate concern. If someone's using a buggy wrapper that mishandles connection timeouts or retry logic, and Claude returns garbage as a result, they're not going to tweet OpenCode screwed up. They're going to tweet Claude is broken. That's real reputational risk.
And there's a debugging nightmare angle here, too. Imagine you're an engineer at Anthropic trying to diagnose why certain users are experiencing weird errors. You're looking at logs, you're seeing strange request patterns, you're trying to reproduce issues. But you can't because the real problem is in some third-party tool's implementation that you don't have access to.
But let's be real. The economic elephant in the room is enormous. When your subscription model assumes controlled consumption and users find ways to consume 5 times what you budgeted for, that's not a bug report. That's an existential threat to the business model.
So, the technical instability justification is probably true and real, but it's almost certainly not the primary driver. The primary driver is that Anthropic was hemorrhaging money on power users who found the arbitrage.
Now, let me push back a bit because the developer grievances here are real and legitimate. No warning, no transition period, no official communication before the block went into effect. Users literally woke up to broken workflows.
Users paying $200 a month had a reasonable expectation of getting value for that money. They built their entire development workflows around these integrations. Some developers reported losing hours of work because their overnight autonomous sessions just stopped mid-run. Code half-written, tests half-complete. The terms of service didn't explicitly prohibit third-party tools, at least not in obvious language. Users weren't trying to steal anything. They were paying customers who found tools they liked better than the official CLI.
And here's what really stung for many users. Some reported getting account bans within minutes of detected usage. Not warning emails, not grace periods, bans, with refund notifications instead of violation notices.
Think about that from a customer experience perspective. You're a paying subscriber, you wake up to find your account banned. The only communication you get is a refund notification. No explanation of what you did wrong, no opportunity to stop the offending behavior, just you're out.
User Now Meraki captured the frustration perfectly in the GitHub thread. Using Claude Code is like going back to the Stone Age. People had built entire workflows around these third-party integrations, more flexible key bindings, better terminal support, custom extensions, Vim bindings, specific IDE integrations, all of that gone overnight.
There's a historical parallel here that keeps coming up in the discussion. Microsoft ActiveX era, vendor lock-in patterns, this feeling that platform companies want you to build on their ecosystem, but only in the ways they explicitly control.
Some users drew parallels to Microsoft's Embrace Extend Distinguish strategy. Others compared it to Apple's approach to third-party iPhone apps before the App Store. The common thread is this sense that powerful platform companies eventually restrict what you can do, even if they initially seemed open.
So, we've got two legitimate perspectives here. Developers feel betrayed. They were paying customers who got cut off without warning. Anthropic was protecting their business model from arbitrage that threatened their financial sustainability. Both can be true simultaneously.
But what does this actually mean for anyone building on AI platforms? Let's get practical, because complaining about the past doesn't help you plan for the future.
The first realization is that unlimited AI subscriptions are economically impossible without rate limiting. Let me say that again because it's crucial. Unlimited AI subscriptions are economically impossible without rate limiting. The rate limit is the product differentiation. It's not a bug, it's not arbitrary, it's the entire reason the pricing works.
Think about it from first principles. AI inference costs real money. Every token you generate burns compute. If you're paying a flat rate, the provider has to assume average usage across their subscriber base. Power users subsidized by casual users. The moment you let power users remove all limits, the math breaks.
Third-party tools exploited the gap between stated value and actual value. And here's the thing, this will happen again, not just with Anthropic, with OpenAI, with Google, with any platform that offers a flat rate subscription for something that has variable compute costs.
The real question nobody's answering honestly, should AI companies be more transparent about actual limits? Instead of saying unlimited, should they say up to X tokens per hour with burst allowances? Would that be more honest?
It would be more honest, but it's less marketable. Unlimited sells better than limited, but probably enough for most use cases. This is a fundamental tension in subscription pricing that goes way beyond AI.
So let's build out a decision framework for anyone evaluating AI platform dependencies. First, assume API access can change. Build abstraction layers in your code. Don't hardcode to any single provider's SDK. Use interfaces that let you swap out the underlying provider.
Second, question unlimited claims. Always ask, what's the actual rate limit? If they won't tell you, assume there is one, and assume it's lower than you want. Try to hit the limits before building critical workflows around the service.
Third, evaluate lock-in risk explicitly. If Anthropic disappeared tomorrow or blocked your access tomorrow like they just did to thousands of users, how hard is it to switch to OpenAI or Google or local open source models? Have you actually tested that migration path?
Fourth, check the terms of service for third-party restrictions. Are the tools you're using actually compliant, or are you building on something that could get yanked? This isn't just about current compliance, it's about understanding that terms of service can change, and your tools might suddenly be non-compliant even if they were fine yesterday.
And fifth, calculate true costs honestly. Yes, the $200 subscription is cheaper than API pricing for heavy use, but the API gives you flexibility. You can use it however you want. You can build your own tooling. You can integrate with any system. That flexibility has real value that doesn't show up in a simple price comparison.
What should you actually do right now if you're affected by this? If you are dependent on Claude Code through third-party tools, you need a migration path. Either accept the official CLI limitations, which might actually be fine for most use cases, or move to API-based access and budget accordingly.
Some users are already switching. There's been chatter about other AI tools like OpenAI's models working fine for their workflows. Others are reluctantly accepting the official Claude Code limitations. A few are even trying bypass strategies, working on, quote, multi-layered bypass approaches, according to GitHub PR 13.
To be clear, working on bypasses is probably a great way to get your account permanently banned. Anthropic has shown they're willing to act fast and without warning. If they detect you trying to circumvent their restrictions, expect consequences.
If you're building AI tools, this is a warning shot. Don't rely on subscription arbitrage as your value proposition. What happened to OpenCode can happen to you. Your entire user base could wake up one morning to find your tool doesn't work anymore.
And if you're evaluating platforms for new projects, prefer explicit limits over unlimited promises. A platform that says you get 1 million tokens per month is being honest with you. A platform that says unlimited is making promises they might not be able to keep when the economics catch up.
The winning strategy is multi-provider abstraction with fallbacks. OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, local models like Llama or Mistral. Build your system so you can switch between them, because the only certainty in this space is that these platforms will change their rules.
There's a phrase that keeps coming up in AI discussions. The model is not a moat. Companies like Anthropic know this. Their moat isn't Claude, the model. Anyone can build competitive models. Their moat is Claude Code, the tool, the integration, the workflow, the user experience layer.
And if that's your moat, you're going to defend it. Blocking third-party tools isn't just about economics, it's about maintaining control of the user experience, the touchpoint where developers interact with your technology, the data about how your tool is actually being used.
Which brings us back to that 2 a.m. lockout. Thousands of developers, workflows broken, no warning. Was it customer hostile?
Here's the reframe that I think captures the reality. It wasn't hostility. It was the inevitable collision between unsustainable economics and developer expectations. Anthropic was losing money on every heavy OpenCode user. The math just didn't work. Something had to give.
The real lesson isn't that Anthropic is the villain here. They're a business trying to survive in a brutally competitive market with enormous compute costs. The real lesson is that in AI platforms, if you're getting a deal that seems too good to be true, it probably is.
$200 for $1,000+ of compute? That was never sustainable at scale. The only question was when and how it would end. Now we know.
Some Anthropic employees popped up in the GitHub thread acknowledging the pain points. They talked about potentially supporting third-party tools differently in the future. Maybe an official API tier for power users or some kind of approved integration program.
But no concrete commitments, which means if you're planning your 2026 AI tooling strategy, you need to assume the current state is the new normal. Official tools only, or pay for API access and accept the flexibility that comes with it.
Let's bring this home. Every developer building on AI platforms needs to internalize this. You are building on someone else's business model. Their incentives are not your incentives. When those diverge, and they will, you lose.
Build abstraction layers. Test your fallbacks regularly. Calculate your real costs, including the cost of switching. And never, ever assume that today's pricing and access patterns will exist tomorrow.
The AI platform wars are just getting started. This won't be the last time a company changes the rules overnight. It's probably not even the biggest change we'll see this year.
The developers who survive and thrive are the ones who planned for exactly this scenario. Multiple providers, clean abstractions, tested migration paths, and a healthy skepticism of promises that seem too good to be true.
And for everyone who got caught out by this one, consider it an expensive but valuable lesson. The next platform shift won't catch you off guard.
That's the practical wisdom here. Not Anthropic bad or developers entitled, but this is how platform economics work, and here's how you protect yourself.
Build like every platform could lock you out tomorrow, because eventually, one of them will.
That's AI Daily for today. If you found this valuable, take a second to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're on YouTube, hit that like button. It really helps us reach more people in the AI community. For deeper dives and weekly roundups, sign up for our newsletter at aidaily.sh. Share this with a colleague who needs to keep up. See you tomorrow.